Welcome back for season 2 of Everyday Business Solutions. My name is Haley Morris. I'm your podcast coordinator and host. Our podcast aims to bring the expertise of business professionals straight to your ears. And for this season, we're going to be talking about important connections and how you can utilize them to elevate your career to the next level. If that's something that you're interested in, just keep listening. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Everyday Business Solutions. My name is Haley Morris. I'm your podcast coordinator and host, as always. And today with me, I have Adam Latham. So Adam, will you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us more about what you do?
Thanks for having me, Haley. I'm the Vice President of Growth Strategy for AA Solutions. I've been on board for about a year and a half.
Thank you, Adam. So we're going to go ahead today and we're going to talk about one of the bigger growing social platforms, especially in the business world, and that is LinkedIn. And LinkedIn's been around for a little while, but I feel like the growth in the last couple years has been significant. And now I know more people on there and it's becoming a more and more active platform. And so what we want to talk about today is how you can actually set up your profile and market yourself and your brand through LinkedIn in an effective way so that you can start to connect to other people in the same way that you would on maybe Facebook, but bring that professional manner to the table. So Adam, tell us your experience with LinkedIn starting off.
Yeah, starting off, it was pretty rough. LinkedIn was a bunch of ads. Not a lot of people used it for what's being used nowadays. A lot of HR people were trying to find people that way. But I believed in it then. I started connecting to people just randomly, actually, over the course of a few years, over a decade ago. And then it just started going from there. And now I'm well over 11,000 contacts. And there's some really good first connections and second connections that I can directly connect with now.
As someone who hasn't quite reached 1,000 contacts yet, I'm a bit impressed. But I'm getting there. And actually, Adam's been one of my bigger helps with developing my profile. Some universities, it's a course requirement to get it started and have some of the base things filled out, like your name and that little description under your header, so to speak, and things like that. But it wasn't that nice looking. It was very, very generic, very college student. And so Adam's been a great help to me. And with that being said, what are some of the first things, if somebody is just now coming to the platform, that they're jumping on it now, what are some of the first things they need to make sure that they have in place to start looking professional and know what they're doing?
It really depends on what you're using LinkedIn for. So if you're starting off and you're looking for a job, you want to have a very, very professional photo, and you want to have the whole profile filled out. And then ask your friends, what do they think about it? And then Google it also. There's going to be a lot of different answers on Google that will help you get through each of those different sections of what to say and what the best thing to say is. It's super important nowadays too, obviously, with career fairs being online. We can move even into the sales world right now. Business development is all being done on LinkedIn and networking that way. I probably get 100 requests a day. Get messages all day and night through LinkedIn. Trade shows are shut down. You can't go. So how are you going to network? It's a fantastic way to network. But if they don't know who you are, what you do, your skill sets, you need to be specific. That will hinder you from having anybody approach you, especially from the HR world, as they're trying to sift through thousands of different profiles.
When I think of it as far as like a potential recruiter seeing my page, even like I'm not looking for a job, I think of it as like my second tier of my resume. What on my resume should I put on there? And then what should I have that maybe isn't something that's appropriate for a resume, but is still a great facet of who I am and the package I present as a potential employee?
It does. I think it does. I think that it's really important that resumes are in different stages. So whether it be your first job, your middle of the career, executive level, it's important to understand what you need to put on each of those resumes and then put that all into LinkedIn, anything you possibly can. It doesn't hurt to have a large LinkedIn profile. It actually helps you. When I'm looking for people or if I'm looking to interact or network, I want to know everything about you. So LinkedIn isn't that one-page resume. It is as much detail as you really can give.
It's really cool too. I've been able to, as a podcast host, be able to link out the podcast, talk more about what I'm doing to invite people who want to be a guest and interact with me, or who just want to network and get to know. I've met with owners of vets and people like that who are just interested in the podcasting world in general because of my profile.
Sure. There's a lot of good networking going on. Some of them are creative. A good friend of mine, Nick Graham, he's in management at EverQuote, and he daily posts something. And he was doing video feeds, I believe, too. I'm not sure if he still is it or not. But that's a really good tool, so people really get to know you. Someone looking for a job, it can't hurt to put up a post every other day, every week, just so people understand who you are when they're coming to your profile. They could see what kind of activity you have. There's other companies like Digital Lightbridge with Rich Hayes. He's really big into reading people's posts and making remarks and commenting. That's also important, that you're commenting on other articles or different posts that are out there. The more activity, the better.
It's like when you show up to an in-person networking event, it's not just about how many hands you shake. It's about those interactions, the back and forth between them.
It is. The back and forth is super important. You're going to get a lot of spam messages. And unfortunately, to answer every one of them is tough for someone that has that many, thousands and thousands of contacts. But if you are in your early stages of LinkedIn, it's important to reach out. You never know who that person is, or who maybe their brother or sister is. And, the connection could be a lifetime. You never know.
So, Adam, I'm very curious, have you heard of the social selling index through LinkedIn?
I have actually. There's four components to it. It's basically it's measuring how well you have established your professional brand. The people that you're connected to, it knows if you're in that right space. Engage with insights is another one. That's, I think, all of the different posts and stuff that you're doing, and how people interact with you. And then, of course, build relationships. So how often are you trying to connect with others? I think my score right now is in the 70s. I try to stay as active as possible. I was more active in 2020 on LinkedIn. Things have changed a little bit, so I haven't had a lot of the time, but I still try to get on there every other day or so and put something up, or look at what other people are doing and try to comment to theirs.
Part of that, like your brand and your profile, go a long way. I know since I've improved mine, my score has gone up, but I'm in the 60s, and a lot of mine is I need to engage and be more active on the platform too. So
yeah, change up the best practices. Say to yourself every day, I'm going to try to connect to at least 2 to 5 people. Try to do it to people that you know, and then get their help to connect with other people that they know, and in the area that you're trying to be the expert at. If you're just trying to be a general salesperson and you're hitting a lot of different areas, you're going to get dinged. People will say that they don't know you. And in too many of those, I don't know that person, will get your account locked. So you'll only be able to connect to those that you have an email address for.
all right, so I'm curious, as far as connecting to the right people goes, that's one of the things that comes up on those insights and things that are looked into with the social selling index, and just a huge thing in general. When you're trying to build your network, you don't want to just be throwing the net out. You actually want to be making intentional connections, things that will help benefit you or people that you could benefit. So how do you go about figuring out the best connections for yourself?
It really comes down to what area are you in, what are you trying to achieve. The goal for me in 2020 was, we weren't going to trade shows, so I needed to connect to as many people that buy business products as possible, as we sell software products like Blitz Sales Software. CallLogic is a dialer, and Align Phone Systems. Those are all business products. So anybody in business, leadership was definitely a target. And that's a pretty broad target too. It's important, though, that if you are going to go into a niche, a good example is Kurt Schroyer. He's a salesperson at AA Solutions here and sells Align Phone Systems. So he's targeting the small business owners and those kinds of areas. So he's constantly trying to connect to any individual that's looking to possibly buy a phone system, in those areas. In your world, you're trying to look for different podcasters, so you're looking for podcasters, those kinds of things. So it's important that you do stay within your niche, But it's also okay to go a little broad. You just, again, got to be very careful about getting too many people that say they don't know who you are.
Mhm. No, I'd say my target demographics tend to be the younger professionals who might listen to our podcast, business leaders and forward thinkers who might be great guests. And then also, I like fashion. So, of course, I like to dip my toes in there and see who on LinkedIn is connecting and growing. And I feel like there's more of a presence from that industry than there was the beginning of last year as well. I've seen growth from certain industries on the platform as well, where more people are getting on, becoming active. There's more information being shared. So, would you say that you see that as well?
I do. There's a ton of activity happening, a lot of great content every day now. Used to be tons and tons of ads, like I was saying at the beginning, but now it's not the same. It's treated a lot differently. It's definitely taken the higher road. There's a lot of recruiters still out there too that are looking for great talent. They're having to try to sift through all of, like I said, the thousands of people looking for jobs, and definitely in middle to senior level management people, and that's tough. So if you can put that content out there and you're delivering it well, you're going to get noticed by somebody.
I've noticed as far as the job seekers and the recruiter side that I've seen more people, they'll make a post about that they are seeking new employment or they're just seeking employment in general for what type of position. And they'll invite their friends and contacts to share that post. And then the same if companies have job postings, more of the employees will share. So that it's a more of a word of mouth versus the recruiters having to go and message everybody and hope somebody answers.
It's very important, actually, to be proactively asking your employees to publish your recruiting posts if you're looking for people, or any other types of business posts. Get your employees involved. It makes it fun to comment. Then their friends will see it, or connections will see it as well. It's important.
Mhm. All right. As far as I've seen some interesting posts too that have popped up more, as far as there's different reactions that you can do. And I know there's like the general, like you just liked it, but there's also now ones, the light bulb and some of the others where it displays more of what you think. People are using those reactions as polls and to get conversations started below, which I think is great because those are huge um, ways to raise engagement on a post. But what other ways, if you are making a post and putting it out, how can you ensure that it reaches more people and that you're actually getting engagement, even while you're an account that's still growing like mine?
If you're trying to get more engagement, it really comes down to asking your friends to repost it and share it. Those little buttons you're talking about were pretty cool when they added those on. The heart to celebrate, that's pretty neat too, especially for the wins that happen on LinkedIn. But at the end of the day, it's all about the content that you're putting out there. If you're not getting a lot of likes, people aren't commenting at all, you're not doing something right. A lot of content that you can find is out there on Google. Just Google what is great content for LinkedIn, and it will help you with different subjects. Don't copy and paste stuff though. Don't take somebody else's article and call it your own. And a lot of people like to just share someone else's post without even saying anything. It's kind of a waste too. If you add to it, let's say this podcast will be shared. I'll put it out there, but I'm also going to make comments about how well Haley did, and make sure that it gets out there to be seen by many others, so that others can have the opportunity to not only hear this podcast, but several of our other podcasts that are being done by AA.
I noticed too that it does show your impressions or your views per post on them when you go into your activity. And I've noticed that if you just share a post and you don't do much with it, that your views per that shared post versus your normal post tend to be significantly less. Like LinkedIn's algorithm doesn't support just reshares. It actually will prioritize the independent post over those.
Absolutely, every single time. I put out just random stuff. It doesn't do anything. But when you actually put your heartfelt words to an actual post with the share, it's different, and people take that differently. And then LinkedIn knows who's looking at what, and then they see it's becoming more popular. It'll put it out to even more of a population, so then it will get even more steam. That's always the best way to do it, for sure.
I'm curious too, do you use hashtags as a way to increase your reach with your post?
I call them pound symbols. But no, I don't generally use the hashtag thing. I never got into the Twitter, so I never got into the search for the hashtag. So I will take your advice that you gave me, I believe, yesterday or the day before, and start adding some hashtags and see if I can get some more activity to the posts that I put up.
Yeah, I think they're interesting. It's certainly, I've noticed back when they came out, and I've never been a Twitter person either, so I can't tell you about the Twitter side of it. But back when they were popular and they first came out, it was just a trendy thing to add hashtags and make jokes in your hashtags. And people started saying hashtag a lot in real life. And they were kind of annoying, but now a lot of these social media platforms are using them for SEO purposes. So it's helping more people find your information based on what they're searching for. So if you're interacting with a lot of posts that have like fashion or sales or things like that in them, then posts that have hashtag sales or hashtag fashion, hashtag marketing are going to be pushed into their feed a little bit more easily. Or if they search that kind of thing, it's going to go to the top of their feed versus if you're not using it. Also, the alternate text on images. I don't know how much you're familiar with that, but that's a little thing I just learned about that you can add. And that also helps for SEO purposes, especially if you're a business posting these things.
I'll start adding some and let you know how it goes.
I'm curious. Yeah, I'm curious. You've got such growth on your account. So to see how it might impact yours is going to be the real test. So, I'm curious though, what are some features that you use on LinkedIn that maybe you think people don't know enough about or they don't realize is there?
Yeah, there's several. One of the biggest ones being business development growth strategy is Sales Navigator, and LinkedIn Sales Navigator is unbelievable on the information that you can get off of it when you are able to know who all of the leadership is of a company in one spot, to be able to create that contact, reach out to them, just to have that initial conversation, to get the network started. Sales Navigator has been a part of my tool set for a long time. I also use a tool called octopus.io, and Octopus is a LinkedIn automation type of tool. And there's several of them out there, but I found that the octopus.io seems to be the one that works the best.
What's your advice if somebody wants to go like the octopus route and wants to automate some of their initial outreach efforts?
It's important to have a CRM like Blitz Sales Software. Honestly, if you don't have the follow-up process, the automation means nothing. The automation is just getting some of the stuff out there in the time frame that a LinkedIn will allow it, because they don't want really to have the automation tool. But at the end of the day, if you're able to have the constant follow-ups to those business prospects and understanding what their email addresses are, and trying to call them on the phone, actually, that's something that has gone by the wayside a lot. One of those octopus.io accounts with a Blitz account can make or break a business. It's big, it's huge.
I'm really curious too, because with those types of things that are often not noticed or not utilized, there's also one thing that I found out about recently that nobody told me in like the couple years that I've had my account, and that's about the recommendation sections under profiles. And I realized you actually already utilize this section on LinkedIn. So what do you have to say about recommendations for profiles?
Recommendations, simply put, are reference letters, little paragraphs about who you are as a person, working with you, not working with you. Ask your connections. It's really important to get some recommendations on there so that anybody, either a recruiter or business contact, just knows a little bit more about you.
I am surprised actually that less people know about them and what they are. It wasn't until a recruiter friend of mine, she's a HR assistant, that she pointed it out and said, "Hey, do you want to give me a recommendation on LinkedIn or give each other one?" And I was like, "What the heck is that?" So
Yeah, there's a function on LinkedIn where you can print it out like a resume, and it looks really nice when you print out that resume with the recommendations on there.
I'll have to look at that because I didn't know that either. And see, that's another thing. It is such a versatile tool. There's so much that you can do with it. And I think the problem is that there's not a great handbook on how to use it. Even the classes that teach you how to get started on LinkedIn miss so much, which is why we wanted to do this episode. Just how do you make yourself actually come across professional? How do you
Sure.
utilize that full profile?
Sure.
So
There's a lot of tools that LinkedIn is actually has API to that's integrated with. Um, One of them I highly recommend if you are looking for a job is it's called ResuMonk, ResuMonk.com, I believe. They're integrated so that when you go in there to make a beautiful looking resume, you can just simply import what's on the LinkedIn into ResuMonk. And there's other ones that do that as well.
that's kind of cool. I'll have to look into that because that would be pretty handy to have, especially for those of us who are really bad about updating resumes, or have been employed for like years and years and years, and suddenly, maybe this past year was a hiccup for you, and you're looking for a new job, or you decided that it's time to grow in a different direction. Then
Get creative, think outside the box. That's how are you going to stand apart from everybody else? There's a lot out there. Again, if you get creative in your Google searching, you'll come up with some really cool ideas for your LinkedIn. And to have that better LinkedIn is really takes it to the next level, especially when you're asking for someone's business or trying to network, and especially if you're looking for a job. Another feature to that too is when you're looking for a job and you're just trying to send it to the senior leadership of the company and trying to bypass the whole HR, whatever it is, and you just want to get to the top. LinkedIn is good for that, really good for that. And if you invest into the sales navigator, um, I believe also that would help as well if you're trying to actively look for that job. But making your resume look really great and is basically taking your LinkedIn and making it look really great. But it's not just for the job. Remember, it's about that whole um, business intelligence and what they can find from you, what they can do with you. You want them to understand and know that. Be transparent. Don't be closed chest about it.
it's a huge thing. Like I said, it's growing, and you've shown how you've seen it grow in the last couple years. But more and more people are on there. In fact, I think when you Google people now, one of the first things that will pop up if they have one is their LinkedIn profile. And if you don't have a LinkedIn profile, your Facebook profile is going to pop up. And I've made mine on the surface. I mean, even underneath that with my friends, it's still professional, but especially if somebody searches me, I know exactly what they're going to see on my profile. It tells them exactly who I am, and I try to think of it as just a second glimpse after LinkedIn. But to have one, if you're working in the professional world, especially because connecting is so important right now and ongoing to any kind of growth you do. So I would say too, I don't know about you, but the cover image after the profile image, the cover image is some of the first things you see when you jump on somebody's profile. And having the basic LinkedIn default image as your cover image because you never updated it, I think that looks not great to say the least. Like it just means that you didn't put that effort in. And maybe you did below, but it gives me kind of like that impression right off the top. So I would say find
Sure.
a simple cover image that represents you or your brand that you're
Well,
working
the
with.
one that's behind me right now, that's the LinkedIn cover image.
And it's nice and clean. It looks very professional and very good. If you're somebody, mine looks like a desk with a computer that has the podcast landing page because that's what I do. I also found coordinating colors with my profile picture because I'm that extra. So,
Nice.
but do you have any other advice for somebody who's starting to build their LinkedIn profile or actually just wants to take it to the next level?
I would say that there's probably three different things I would say if you are just starting out with your LinkedIn, just get it up to speed. Make sure you're connecting to people on a regular basis, on a daily basis, and post here and there, click like here and there. You'll see an increase in activity. If you're that medium in the road and you're just trying to figure it out and you're kind of trying to get some steam, start posting more. It's all about the activity that you're doing and post good stuff. Again, do a lot of Google creative searching and you'll come up with that right idea and then just go from there and roll with it. If you're someone like, I don't know, let's say Simon Sinek, who wrote my most favorite book, Start with Why. You have thousands of people that are using. You're doing a great job. Good job.
All right. Well, thank you, Adam. It's been great to have you on the show. And for everybody listening, if you guys want to start your profile and you're starting to reach out and connect people, you can start with us, and we'll go ahead and share our profile so that you can reach out and try to connect. Send us a little note when you do connect so we know where you're coming from. But this is podcast or how I've made my favorite connections. So go ahead and do that. And then we will see you next week for our next episode, and have a great rest of your day.